Welcome, fellow armchair generals, to a new series of Hearts of Iron 4 1.4.1 with BlackICE 2.4. Been waiting for this for some time, and that's what we're going to talk about a little bit here. This is, of course, Gamer 1745. Sorry. I do have Death or Defeat installed. I do not know if that is currently required for BlackICE, though I think eventually it will become required with it. Okay, and then here, which I want to do notice, most civil wars are disabled due to the 1.4.1 patch causing issues with BlackICE. Only certain historical ones are working at this time. So if your strategies are to provoke civil wars in countries, and then it ain't gonna work right now. I don't know what it is. I sort of been following what Panzeru has been posting, that it worked with 1.4, but whatever they changed, and I don't know what it was in 1.1, it causes a crash to desktop. So just understand that limitation. I do also understand at the time I'm making this, they're getting ready. Well, they've some problem with the national focuses in Russia. I don't think it's going to affect us, and quite likely it may be save game compatible if they upgrade it. Now, I have gotten a fair amount of input at different times as to what nations to play. Last big series was, of course, I mean, there was the small little check thing that I did, but the real big series was Japan. So I don't want to do Japan next. That series went off the rails when the German AI wouldn't play. I have been suggested to play the US, and I'm sort of like playing the US. I've always found it being I don't know, too easy, too cheating almost, because it's just such a powerhouse. But you know, so we're starting a German series, as you probably know from the title that will be described here. That is not precluding other series starting sometime relatively soon, weeks away, that may run concurrently to this series. So still want input on it. Won't always just be playing Axis powers. Obviously the recent Hearts of Iron 3 series is playing it as Britain, so we will be doing that. Welcome. We're gonna do, I've played don't think I got out of 1936, playing just a little bit before this, so we're gonna turn on dynamic policies for the politics. I don't know how well this will work. I don't know how, we'll learn together. Partisans, yes, we want partisans. Alliance system notice, please read. Because Hoy does not allow ideologies to be in the same faction with each other, the alliance system had to be rewritten. Factions are still working, but they take time to fire the necessary events to add everyone in wartime. So please wait at least a week, or maybe even 2, after the war starts for you and everyone else to join their factions. Thank you for your patience. Okay, I understand. So that's where we're starting with that. Now, because these are basically 0 days that take a day to go through, we're going to start here. Create that. And go over, make sure we're getting the important ones. We, factory bomb. I'm going to post about this because shouldn't production retention efficiency be plus 10%? Interesting. This may become an abortive. 8, 8, 10. Because still going to go with the dispersed industry at the moment. I'm going to look into that. And we're going to go with construction. Get that going. As you can see, we have some of that already done. Electrical engineering. Now, take a quick look. Got various submarines and their supportive techs. German historical battleships with, again, supportive tech. Standard doctrines. I guess this is some work in progress, small unit raids. World War I infantry, time to research. Infantry. Small unit raids. Night patrols. Okay, I think this is another doctrine that they're working on. I'm guessing, don't know. We have some panzer techs here. Your sort of standard various artilleries for BlackICE. Here and that. So we're going to come over here. Let's start the Panzer III. And they're not too long, but we're going to start doing some let's see, medium bomber. And light bomber. Okay, that will get that going. Now to start, we're going to come in here. Now they're doing a different sort of provincial support system. Standard I can see obviously, but I'm glad that they're now using that as well. Okay, we're going to also start with my sort of strategy. We're going to use all of our civilian factories at start to build a few more civilian factories to maximize the speed of that. So what we're going to do is look at some building some equipment here that we can build without importing much of anything. That might as well be efficient about it. Yeah, let's do a few more field uniforms. those pumping through. Okay, we can go to that. Now, here, let's move you down by 1. Just in case, we'll make sure that he has that. Let's move you up. What I'm doing is I'm looking for things that are more complete than others to get production through. So once one of these ends, I want to concentrate production where I can. Even if it is a coastal type submarine, as maybe you've seen in my other series, there are some good uses for coastal submarines. And then we also have, this is going to take a little while, sorry. I'll walk these things up. We want to get through them as quickly as possible. There's also some destroyers down here that are a little ways down. Well, get that in production. Okay, so we're going to do that. So we're going to leave this as a problem. Now, I think there's going to be a bunch of divisions given by events, but we're still going to train some. And I know I can come and hit add unit, but I sort of like to put them in different parts of the country so that they're there to respond to things as needed. This may not be enough. This is not enough for my normal production levels, but when I play standard Hearts of Iron 4, but like I say, we've got lots of stuff coming via events. Okay, Japan claims hegemony in East Asia. We have U-boat yard level 2 reached, heavy aircraft factory 1 reached, light aircraft 1, Panzer 2, shipyard 4, artillery factory 4, no truck factories, no 9 levels for small arms, no ammo, 2, okay. These are both nice, but I like the standard ones a little better. We have a small navy, yes. Small air force, yes. Small army, yes. And we're a green army. And Scharnhorst and Gneisenau are 280 millimeter or 30. I guess we don't really have an option here yet. Yes, we'll form the first Gebirgs Jaeger Brigade. I'm sure I'm butchering that. National focus Schutzstaffel is complete. Yes, we'll have that. See, they've gone to a wider, at least in some cases, which is not a bad thing, but I like it that it can center on a sort of more standard format that I use. So we want to come over here, and again, take this 0 day, takes 1, even though it's 0. Now, we got a lot of this stuff here. I don't 100% understand all of it, and we're at partial mobilization. Yeah, okay. I posted about some of these before on the BlackICE. Most industries nationalized, key industries nationalized. I would say it was historically. Now, okay, we have two things. We have a term that's used to describe it, and then we have the effects below it. I grant that there are two effects, or two different things, and you know, the effects may be correct, but the title wrong. Germany was only key industries nationalized. It was, and it was only really sort of centrally planned to some degree, even though that, you know, for the war effort, once Speer gets involved. So that is, I would say, at least term-wise, historically wrong. As you've seen, if you've watched my Hearts of Iron 3 series about Ford and GM and Standard Oil, all working in Germany and having factories, because I think it was, you know, I've have photos, I don't use them because they're before it, but Ford himself laying the bricks for another Ford factory in, I don't know, 1930. I know that's before the Nazis came into power, but continues on. So I would go so far as to say that its foreign investors are regulated and not just tolerated. I think that is wrong, and I almost went in and modded the start, but whether it's just my laziness or playing the game that you're going to be playing, I didn't end up changing that, because I do that sometimes, but you know, tweak the game to myself. But often I know you want to watch a similar game that you would be playing. So high tariffs. Yeah, I would grant that that's probably correct. Trade policy, limited exports, at least of resources. That's very much what Germany was. High taxes. Well, obviously, what are high taxes versus extreme high taxes? You know, quite honestly, I don't know the tax rates in Germany. I quite honestly don't know. That's just I realized that before making the series when I looked through this, so I can't criticize them. I wouldn't say that they were low or minimal. That I would find odd. But I wonder, for, you know, because we're talking not about the tariffs for exporting or importing. We're talking about domestic taxes. I don't know that the tax rates were higher or higher than Poland's or France or Britain's or Sweden's or Austria's or Czechoslovakia. I quite honestly just don't know, and that may be something I should look into sometime. Okay. Germany definitely is one of the more highly educated populations, especially if you look at compared to Russia or Soviet Union this time, but also if you compare it to I would say Hungary, United or Kingdom of Romania, Poland. Not that there weren't universities that were good. I'm sure there were some. I just quite honestly don't know. But I've been to Budapest, and yeah, I'm sure was a high class university there at the time, and I presume Warsaw had one too. But having a university teaching a group of people that is high level, doesn't mean that it's widespread knowledge throughout the nation. Where you look at all the universities that are around Germany, all of the fairly high trade skill schools that were going on at the time, they really are a step above some of those nations I just talked about. This part of the Czech part of Czechoslovakia, I would say it's pretty highly educated too. The Slovak part, I'm not saying they can't read and write. That's not what we're talking about, high investment in education. But, you know, that kind of thing. Press laws. I would say it was a regulated press, and like I say, I posted about this, and they haven't changed it yet. It was there was very little in Germany at this time that you would call a state press. It was mostly, you look at Berliner Illustrated, Zeitung, the weekly photo magazines, and all the other stuff that I've collected. They're all privately owned, and for, I would say, about 99% of what they published was entirely up to them. I am not saying that there wasn't planted stories in some of those things. I don't know that there specifically was, but I'm not saying that there wasn't any. But they could publish just anything they wanted, so with the caveat, so long as it was generally in line with the National Socialist ideas. That's why I say regulated press. It isn't a free press. I don't know. Maybe it's even just a censored press. But I would say probably regulated here. Is what it was. So they could cover whatever stories they wanted, wherever they wanted, for the most part, so long as it was within National Socialist ideas. And you may go, well, isn't that a state press? Well, no, because if they wanted to cover a new battleship being launched, they would cover it. Or if they didn't want to cover it, they wouldn't cover it. Meaning they weren't like, oh, we're launching the Deutschland next week, everybody must put that on the cover of their newspaper. No. If they were a naval-oriented, shipping-oriented magazine, I'm sure they would cover it. But they covered what they thought was the most interesting news, again, within National Socialist bounds. So I would go that it was a regulated press, but that's just me. This is one that I had trouble thinking about. I'm sorry if this is slowing it down, but I know some of you do like me talking. Is Germany a police state? And what we're not talking about, was Nazi Germany ever a police state? We're talking about 1936. It just barely, in my opinion, is. If you look at this, I would go personally, it was probably major restrictions. But it did have the police apparatus. In that, you know, socialists were still around, but socialist leaders weren't. Communists were banned. You know, so now again, when I've talked about if you're Jewish or you're a communist, you're sort of out of bounds. And obviously, it's not a civil liberties first, and it isn't just a minor restrictions. I'm not arguing that Nazi Germany was either of those two things. Now, Nazi Germany becomes, most assuredly, sometime by 1941, it is a police state. You know, so we're not talking Nazi Germany wasn't evil. We're just talking, at least I'm talking about, is that Nazi Germany is a gradualization of conditions, starting in 1933 under the Weimar Republic, as you know, and it's still the Weimar Republic when Hitler comes to power. That isn't Nazi Germany yet, because the Weimar laws hadn't changed. It doesn't change until the Reichstag fire and the enabling laws. And in my opinion, finally only the Nazi state really starts once Hindenburg dies and Hitler becomes head of state and not just head of government, because there's sort of a transitioning from Weimar Republic to the Third Reich. So, and under the Weimar Republic, it's sort of civil liberties first, if you haven't studied it, you know. So then, as they come in, there's minor restrictions, and then major restrictions is sort of where I would say we're at in 36. By 41, we're in a police state. So that's just my sort of analysis of the shifting through and where we're at. And so that's just where, and I don't necessarily say that people have a lot of ignorance about the Nazi Germany, but they sort of have it from a, well, we know all the evils that they did, so we're calling Nazi Germany at this point as if it were 1944 and the Holocaust is chugging along as fast and as furious as it can be. There was no Holocaust going on. Well, there was the euthanasia thing. You know, so getting close. But there was no Jew. The Kristallnacht didn't happen. Kristallnacht didn't happen until 1938. So we haven't even had Kristallnacht yet. You know, so as a major repression of the Jews, that was, you know, so there's a lot of bad things going on, but it ain't what it eventually comes down to. Now, this I agree, it is a homogeneous state. It doesn't. It's not like Czechoslovakia, where you got the Czechs and the Slovaks and the Sudetendeutsch and the Ukrainians out here, and along the border along here some Hungarians, and oh yeah, sort of gotten a little argument with people, but Zolist is Polish. Well, I know I don't know the full story of why it became Czech and not Poles, but my point, the argument is, should these countries really worried about fighting over this sort of one province or whatever? I know it's two at this point, but over this that kept them having from a united front against Germany. You know, I'm not talking which it rightfully should be owned. I'm just talking about it with, you know, point of conflict that allowed Germany in, more so than anything else. So that's my sort of analysis of that. Now here, this is we have these things: foreign policy, we're a warmonger. Okay. We war bonds, normal financial currently. And see, I really have not looked into these. We are currently a standing army as opposed to reserve to whatever. Levels of conscription, we're at a 3-year draft. I think that's appropriate for Germany at this time. 2 or 3 years, something like that. We're age laws for 19 to 30. Obviously, we can go to 12 to 70. So that's interesting. So we need to expand that to get larger. Right? Women in the labor force. Women allowed. Women encouraged. Women press. I think Germany got to encouraged. Now I would say they were allowed. Within Germany, culturally, you know, you did at this point in 36, the RAD, JW, the women's RAD, was a voluntary organization, meaning women voluntarily went into it, and that was sort of an out-of-doors training and work movement at this time. They weren't, for the most part, at this time, working in most industrial factories of a, you know, building a tractor or building a car. Now, in a industrial factory making clothes or shoes, I think there were quite a few women working, sort of, shall we say, light manufacturing in that sense, in clothing, in probably light knickknacks that you would put around the house or something, you know, light work like that. Women would be allowed, not encouraged. Nazi Germany always encouraged women into the home, but allowed to do that. So that would be correct for this time. Foreign recruitment. Well, yep, now in 36 there would be no foreign recruitment. And yes, Germany's looking at this time for high standards of that and elite officer training. Okay, I agree with all of that. Now, we have here head of state. So this has some ability to change heads of state. Okay. Will it change this up here if you do? Don't know. See, again, I have not played with their new political system. Foreign minister. I like that they now have slots. I've built a mod that is not complete, that has a similar, different but similar type of situation with this. So, and the two Nazi ones are currently available. So I like that. Interior Minister, which, as in most European countries, is your security minister. Oh, these titles here, like foreign minister, head of state, you can't mod them per country. I have poked for that because I would say wanted to, for the U.S., I wanted to call him Secretary of State. You know, just have the title moddable to particular countries, just for immersion purposes. Okay, so we're starting out with Himmler as Interior Minister, though he wasn't at this time, but whatever. He was the head of the SS, obviously. Head of Intelligence, so we've got Wilhelm Canaris. It doesn't look like Canaris, but okay, maybe that is. Okay. So, as head of intelligence, economics minister, and economics minister. I guess they went with two slots, but okay, I guess, yeah. So it's they're the same group here. As you can see, they haven't finished out the portraits, no problem. So you have two slots there. I don't know. Political advisor. You get two slots for political advisor. So you have Goring and you have Hess as political advisor. Now I agree fully that Hess should be a political advisor. At this time, from those available, Bormann wouldn't be there yet, not until Hess goes away, because he just hadn't risen far enough. Goering, particularly at this time, well, he had been head of state for Prussia. I don't know whether you could. I'd put in some other choice probably at this point. So we got that standard research. I've got here, well, expanded, but standard research slots for that. We get sort of standard high command. And let's see what. Okay, we have Supreme Commander. Oh, this is another thing I pointed out. Should be Bloomberg. He's the Supreme Commander, because he is the defense. He is the Secretary of War, and the head of the Army right now. Bloomberg is. Fritsch was sort of number 2, and was set to replace Bloomberg if Bloomberg left. That's the whole thing. Chief of the Army. Okay. So I'm trying to look and see who else. Okay. These are just other. Oh, well, you put in Hitler, I guess, but, and we have 2 Fritsches. I told them about that. I don't know. I guess I just haven't had time. I can understand. Time to do things, but head of the Army, Beck, Hadler, Guderian, Brauhitch, Keitel, don't know Zeitzler really at all. And of course Reeder and Donitz are the two most well-known Navy figures. Goring, Kesselring, and von Grimm. Goring, of course, was the head of the Luftwaffe until he tried to sort of negotiate a separate peace with the Allies, and then he was, you know, called a traitor and whatnot, and orders to have him killed or so, whatever. And von Grimm was the last head of the Luftwaffe for like a month or something. Let's just start with that. So that's the government. Oh, and more. These here we don't get to change. They are just the current levels of the factory types. So if you want to check those out, and I sort of like that they've moved those to the bottom because we don't get to change them. So it's only like if we really think we want to know about that information, we can look down there. Otherwise, all the rest is displayable there. Okay, I'm going over this partially as a tutorial. Feel free to skip through things. Yeah. Okay, we're doing the historical SS just because I'm like that most, and then do the. So let's now. We obviously don't have divisional generals, or do we? That sure looks like a divisional general to me. Sepp Dietrich is now in charge of that division. And what we are going to do here is, because I know, no, we're just going to call this the SS. I don't feel like the moment running shift stuff, although I hate this. Don't know why this is the default. If you go to black, it's just too dark. Let's see. Color. And
angetreten.
Hauser.
Bereit zum Ausrücken.
Since he's the SS VT commander basically at this time. We've got that. Now the Totenkopf Verband. Hopefully I'm not butchering that too bad. These are basically the concentration camp guards. They weren't exclusively that, but that's sort of what they're most known for. That's wrong. Well, something's wrong here. Either the uniform or the SS thing, because I don't know General Frederick Schultz right offhand. I don't recognize him as an SS general or Waffen SS general, and that's definitely an Army uniform. Now again, I'll be nitpicky here. All that gold on there shouldn't be there on Den Huber. That should all be silver. Like Phelps here. Much of the gold there should be silver, I do believe. They overuse the gold on the Army officers' hats. I believe most of that should be in silver. There are. It's sort of complicated, and I can't just say that it's universally all gold is wrong. Okay, that I know is wrong on the hats, and this is all sort of started under the bad artistry for Hearts of Iron 4. But again, like those are basically correct colors for the SS here, and notice he doesn't have an SS trait. So I do know there was a Liebman SS guy, so I presume that's correct there. And this is who we're looking for, Theodore Eicke. And so now we have our SS.
Bereit zum Ausrücken.
Again, I hate this color. Let's give it a different color, even if it's similar to the other one. No. Oops. Okay, we want to enter the Rhineland. See, they changed this, but we get a lot of... Okay, this is interesting. I can't go down, but you can look at Alsace and Wales, the negatives. I think, particularly the Alsace, and I don't know the Wales, those are maybe modifiers for resources going to Britain and France. Well, I honestly didn't know there was that much resources going to Britain. I knew there was a lot of resources still going to France at this time. And so they're sort of, I guess, moving back to the Saarland and the Rhineland. Okay, that's sort of clever. I like that. And whether Panzeroo or any of the other BlackICE team may happen to watch this someday, please understand my critiques are, you know, like uniform problems. They're just critiques on the historical reality. Other things that I may say that I like or don't like, that doesn't mean, don't take this as a big criticism. We're never going to 100% agree. I think what you're doing is great, wonderful. And if I don't say it enough, I'm sorry, but I really do think doing it, and like I say, the clever ideas of the shifting of the resources, there's a lot of really good stuff here. So this is not a, because I happen to disagree with something that they did. Now some of the stuff we all know we're wrong on, in the sense of, I don't know how much aluminum we have, because how much aluminum does it take to build X type of plane, you know, versus, you know, we can all sort of look at 1936 production levels and partial it out and try to do that, but then it's how much does it take to build radios, and how much does it take to build planes, and how much does it take to build whatever else. We're reinterpreting, and we're letting the clock go, so I'm just trying to fill the time here. We're reinterpreting the reality into a game, so we're going to be wrong. We can't be right on everything. You're making judgment calls, and this is, I know from my modding experience, and just how you got to look at it. Now let's
Ihre Befehle.
This.
Angetreten.
I'll watch troops. Okay, motorcycle deal. Sign up with it with Japan. Okay, I guess so. Winter Olympic Games. What are the... Okay, yes, this should give us our stuff. Don't we have a motorized somewhere? Proper division, not the Watts Trooping? Maybe that's all we have. Oh, well, this would tell me, wouldn't it? Yeah, do you have one of those? Look,
Achtung!
Don't see it. We'll move the second Panzer. I don't know how many units we'll get to
Ausrücken!
send to the Spanish Civil War, but I'd like to send something down there. And I'm watching what I'm saying. That's regard to things that I can't talk about. Sorry. Dance show, that isn't the dance show, that's gymnastics from one of the Nuremberg rallies. Okay, we're entering the Rhineland, which Now, yes, when the Rhineland was remilitarized, it was the final nail in resources primarily going to France and I guess to England. I don't really know how much was going to England at the time. In 35 you have the Saarland plebiscite that goes on. The Saarland was sort of set up to be something sort of like the idea of the Free City of Danzig, in that it wasn't exactly part of Germany, but it wasn't quite given over to France either. But it was very much economically managed and exploited by the French for sure, and that's sort of what it was part of the reparations post World War I. I don't know all the details of exactly how, whatever, but there's a couple of Nazi martyrs. Maybe even one of them got a ship named after him, that were killed by the French, and he was sort of resisting French occupation in the Saarland and whatever. There's an ongoing ulcer of German, not just in the Saarland, but German reaction over French, particularly occupation in the Saarland. In 35, they did a plebiscite in the Saarland, overwhelmingly voted to be part of Germany. And basically at that time, I do believe the last of the French troops actually left the Rhineland region, of anything more than minor observer troops, just to make sure that Germany wasn't stealthily remilitarizing the Saarland or something like that, so. But I think that was the last significant enforcement element that Germany or France had in the Rhineland. I could be wrong, but I think that's basically it. Okay, so I think the next best thing here is to do this. Now I was looking here. This is good for building military factories, obviously. We already have Schacht here, who is very good at building non-military factories. So this slot here, but we also have Alfred Crump. Oh, well, I did mean to do that, but I didn't mean to do that right away. I wanted to talk about it first. No, we've already spent it, so we're going to keep it here. But Crump here, I think he dies very soon. I think before 1940? If I'm not mistaken, I don't know. Not sure exactly. You can see a lot of the civil factories, basically another Schacht. So, not exact stats, I don't think, but there. The Rad is basically an early version of Tote, it looks like. Well, yeah, Tote up here. So now they are doing the historical we got it here, of April 30th 1936 to start the 4-year plan. So we have don't think we need to try to do this to piss the French off just yet. Nothing more to do with the SS at the time. We got the Kriegsmarine, or 3 dockyards basically. 56 days. That's an important factor. 56 days for the Wehrmacht. You get better land bonuses, and the Luftwaffe. We also get an aircraft, a heavy and a light aircraft factory, and some air bases as well as this. So looking at this, if you were going to remember the one or the other, probably pick the Wehrmacht if you're going to pick one, because that has a lot of the aircraft factories and air bases and research bonuses, all that good stuff. But I'm going to go with this to get that done, and we can take a quick look here. We are getting through a bunch, and they've been deployed. It's auto. Of my early production ships. Okay, we're going to end this episode here. I want to thank you for watching. I want to thank you for liking videos, and since this is the first video in the series, please post questions, comments, suggestions, ideas. If I've screwed up something massively, hey, we can restart. And we haven't invested a huge amount of time in this. It's one thing to come back at something that we've played 20 episodes of and have to start over again. So love to hear your thoughts and opinions about this. Like I say, I have not played outside of 36 with this latest version of BlackICE, and I know a few of you who've been playing it under the 1.4 version for some time now. I've been waiting. So, and I'm also looking for, I know I've said this before, another step for me getting fiber optics has actually been achieved. I was informed about half a week ago that it may be a week and a half or 2 weeks that I might get the next step. Basically, the company come out and wire things up. But then I think once that's done, I think I have to have another guy come out and actually install it into the house, and not just to the house. So I would like to do a BlackICE multiplayer sessions. I'm thinking the weekend. Like to have a group of people. Wouldn't mind if it's mildly large, and so that the reason I say that is maybe if you're on Team Axis, maybe you get stuck playing Kingdom of Romania, but if on a particular day, because it'll happen, the guy and because I'm going to stream it live, that's the point of having this stuff, and so that's why I need my better connection to be able to stream it live. You guys don't have to you just have to have a connection that works and doesn't slow the game down. We'll do it once I get my stream up and going. We'll do some tests. I can one-on-one quick test to make sure that things go well. So you can PM me or contact me or something like that. But like if on a particular day that we're scheduled, the guy who normally plays Italy is not there, might as well have the guy who plays Romania play a better country or something like that. If it's just 4 people, I would say it would be England and USSR versus Germany and Japan. The 5th guy would go in as Italy, but because the US is so powerful, I want a human player for the 3 major Axis powers before I allow an American to, someone to play America, because that just can be overwhelming, and I could easily see the American player just taking down whatever, Italian AI or something too easily. So that just, if you're interested in joining that, and if you're watching this 3 or 4 months from posting time, well, we may be starting another player group or something, so you can look around the channel to find information about what's current on that. Okay, so please post questions, comments, suggestions, ideas. Love hearing from you. Thanks so much. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.